Hey, what's up guys? It's Josh again, and today is the day the monster will be born. So yesterday I just went and got all the stuff that I needed. I got a cherry picker and the motor mount from one of my old bosses that I used to have. He's a really nice guy. Earlier this morning I had to run an AutoZone and get some stuff just that I needed, because I'm probably gonna have to drain all this fluid. I needed a torque wrench, motor oil, coolant, training fluid, and some Honda Bond like stuff. Right now I just got back. I had to drive for a little while, so my engine's pretty hot, so I'm probably gonna wait at least about half an hour, and hopefully it don't take an hour for it to cool down enough, but hopefully by the time I get done taking everything I need out, it'll be cool enough to drain the oil and all that fun stuff. Alright, so far we got all the stuff out that we needed. I went ahead, I just took the valve cover off, because I think what I'm going to do is take the head off individually and just put it onto the K24, and then take the block out so it's easier, and then drop the whole Frankenstein build in just like that. Boy over here, and it came with some beverages. Alright guys, so we ended up having to stop the other day because we pretty much came to a stopping point where we couldn't really figure out what to do next, so we called it a day and just decided to come back the next day today. So currently where we are at right now, so got just about everything taken out. Disconnected the header from behind it, took out cold air shroud, and make sure you drain all your fluids before you do this, or you'll be like me and you can kind of see down there I spilled a whole bunch of coolant down there, so make sure you drain all your fluids first. But after you've done all that, the whole engine is kind of moving freely now, so the next step I think is we're going to have to take the axles off because they're connected to the transmission, and we're just going to take the engine and the transmission out as one piece. Alright, so one of the next steps you guys are going to have to do is make sure you take the axles out. So whenever you guys get to these axle nuts right here, they're 36mm nuts, and I would recommend you guys getting some PB Blaster and hit it once from the front, and then hit it right inside these slots of these brakes, because it'll penetrate the socket from both sides, and that's how we were able to get it out. Otherwise it's going to be a pain in the ass. So that's just with using a breaker bar and stuff. You don't even need like power tools. Just get someone to hold the brakes for you and another person to break the nut loose. God damn! Is that on video?
Yeah, boy, I got some of it. We're trying to guess empty out the Freon.
That scared the shit out of me.
6 months away from doing his heart transplant.
Damn, if I'd have taken it on faster, I think it would have let so much of that pressure out.
How can you be so heartless?
So we finally got this damn thing out. Holy shit. I look like shit. But we got it out. So yeah, I'm just glad that part's over. So we take the whole thing out. What we're gonna do next is drop it to the ground, take the transmission off and disconnect it. Probably lift the block back up, put it on the engine stand, and we're gonna start disassembling the head, and probably moving it to the K24 so we can get ready to lift that and put it back in there.
Just block head off of this Frankenstein into the mean mobile.
We did it. What's up, you guys? Sorry for taking so long for some of this content, but for about a week, after we had got the whole engine out, I had ran into some problems trying to figure out all the next steps and stuff, and I got stuck trying to figure out how the half shaft was going to mount to the back of the K24. And I basically had to spend an entire week, researching to find out what was gonna work, and eventually I figured it out just yesterday actually. So um, yeah, eventually I'm at the end of this I guess 2-part episode, 2 or 3 part episode that I'm gonna do kind of like a follow-up video and make sure that I'm gonna write everything down and list everything that you're gonna need to do this entire project, because I feel like the video before that listed some of the stuff that you needed, I did leave out some stuff, and some very important stuff actually. So I'm gonna probably either do a revision and, you know, just make another video and make sure that I absolutely have everything on a list to make sure that you guys have everything and all the knowledge that you're gonna need to make this build work. So stay tuned for that. But for right now, I want to show you guys where I'm at with this basically. So here's the full K20 engine that I pulled out. It's still got most of the stuff on it, and I got the K24 over here. So basically what I'm going to be doing right now is I'm working on getting the I got the clutch and flywheel off the K20, and I'm getting ready to put it on here. Something that I'm highly going to recommend you guys using is make sure that you get some red thread locker. It doesn't necessarily have to be any name brand or anything. I was focusing on anything, but basically I picked up some of this at AutoZone just for like a couple of dollars. It was like $5 or $6, so it's not expensive. You don't need a whole lot of it. But whenever you go to put these flywheel bolts back in, make sure that you use some of this thread locker, because you do not want these things to come loose. It will screw your clutch up. It can wreck your crank, and then you'll have to just basically rebuild the bottom end of your block, and that's gonna cost a lot of money. You don't want to have to go through that pain. I don't want to have to go through that pain. So just make sure you got some of this thread locker, and I got the high strength thread locker just to absolutely make sure it's high heat resistant, and it'll definitely make sure that it keeps from coming loose from vibrations and all kinds of stuff. So make sure you guys get some of that. One thing that I definitely want to cover for you guys is the problem I was talking about where I have with the half shaft and how that's going to mount, because I literally looked everywhere and not a single place on the internet will directly tell you how to mount that half shaft and how you're gonna have to do it. Because how I thought it would mount, you know, on the half shaft bracket here. This is the bracket on the half shaft, and you know, the way it bolts onto the K20 is you've got these two and then this one down here, and that's what holds it onto the block. But when you come to the K24, originally I had thought that those two holes on the one side of the bracket mounted here and here, and that's incorrect. It does not go there, because you will find that the bracket holes are spread farther apart than the holes on the actual block, and where on the other engine it's supposed to mount is actually on this hole, and there would be normally another hole right here, but there's not. Instead, there is the K24's factory oil filter housing, and what you have to do is actually remove this oil filter housing. That cannot be there. It will be in the way of the bracket, and you cannot mount it without taking that off. So what you have to do, what I did, is you can go online. The only one I could find was on PRL's website, but they have a oil housing block off plate that basically it screws right into the factory holes, into where the oil housing is, and it seals off this old housing. And what you do is you take the oil filter housing off of the K20 right here. You'll have to take this, I haven't gotten it off, I don't have the right socket size, so I have to go to AutoZone and get one. But basically you're going to take this whole housing right here off, and it's going to go over here, right here, and that allows you to relocate the oil filter up here. And I actually found that people tried to do this build and they left the oil filter in this stock location. Somehow they got it to work, I don't know, but they put it right here, and they they basically destroyed the head because there was not enough oil that was actually getting to the camshafts and stuff like that. So it screwed up his camshafts and his rocker assembly, and had to basically rebuild his entire head. So it's very essential that you relocate it to right here. And normally there's gonna be, like on the back of the K24, there's gonna be something covering this up. It's just I can't remember what size it is, but it's basically just a cover and a bolt that plugs this up. But this will come off easily. And this right here, I've heard this is not 100% necessary, but I would recommend it just because it's a oil coolant jet socket, and it comes out just with the this little Allen key size. I can't remember. It's a H10 size Allen key socket, and you take that out, and this oil coolant jet is from like a Honda S2000. It's a direct fit, same thread size. So you basically just put it in there, and I can't remember for sure, but what it does is it's part of the oil cooling system, and it just allows coolant to be recirculated back up to the head to help cool. Or I think it goes directly to the water pump housing. Yeah, so it goes directly to the water pump housing. I'll double check that later just to make sure, because I don't want to give anybody false information and do it incorrectly, but I believe it goes to the water pump housing. And once you get into the water pump housing, you know, it just helps with the cooling process and keeps your engine a lot cooler. And to me, it's worth it. So I picked the part up for only a couple dollars. Like if you guys go to there's a website called HondaPartsNow.com, and they have factory parts you can get, and most of the time they're way below like store price. You can get a lot of stuff on good prices and discounts and stuff. So I recommend if you go into like that website, and that'll help you out a lot by getting that. They're pretty cheap. So basically where I'm at with this project right now, the next step is I'm waiting for my oil block off plate to come in the mail. So in the meantime, what I'm gonna start doing is swapping over all the essential parts and like the pulley systems and stuff like that. Basically just building this block up. So, you know, taking all the pulleys off and swapping them over, the alternator and the whole head, basically the manifold, all the oil components and tubing and stuff like that. And after that, you know, hopefully my parts will have come in, and I'll be able to finish this whole block and start putting the transmission back in, and you know, drop it in, and you know, hook it all back together and see how it sounds, see how it works. Hopefully it works. It should work. You gotta have faith in it, but you know, it'll work. You can't have any sort of doubt when you're doing this. You know, it's supposed to be fun. Keep your hopes up, and just be patient with it. You know, don't rush into anything. Make sure the one thing that I will highly recommend is do your research. Like, that's probably one of the most important things that you're gonna need, is to do your research. Like, I researched this for months and months and months ahead of time. Even I've had this block sitting out here for months, and you know, I still needed to make sure I did my research, and that's the one thing so far that saved me, is doing the research. So that's probably one of the biggest key components of this whole project, is just make sure that you know all the parts that you need and all the stuff that you need to do, all the problems you might run into, and just be prepared. So other than that, guys, I would say this is the end of the part 1 to this. Hopefully I might do maybe some time lapsing of, you know, just swapping everything over, the build just in an entirety. Unfortunately, you know, I only have my phone to do all this. I wish I had a GoPro or a camera stand, but can't have everything you want, and money's tight. It all went to the engine. So yeah, I'll have the part 2 coming up soon, and like I said, just basically overall parts list and things that you'll need, things you'll run into, problems and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that video, and I'll make sure to get it up as soon as I can to you guys. And just be prepared for this thing, man. I'm excited about this build, and it's one of probably the biggest projects I've ever done for this car. So it might be the biggest project I ever do for this car. So looking forward to it. I'm just glad that I didn't give up. You know, I kept going with it, and I figured it out, so that's the biggest thing. So stay tuned for this video. Like this video, comment, you know, if you got any questions, ask it. Hit that subscribe button, please. And y'all have a nice day, and I'll see y'all on the next part. Peace.